my pronouns?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay,
no, I
but if
don't.
you
Oh,
did-
okay. Well, because I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't want to hear them? They're real good.
No, I'm good, man. But thank you.
No, thanks. I'm not a plan or anything.
It's also the he, him. Like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, it's like,
Of course, he planted someone to say they them.
the pronouns thing is something that some old people are so obsessed with. But even if you're one of these old people that feels like times are changing and you can't even understand it, it's the easiest, like, common courtesy thing you could do to another person.
Yeah.
And the joke is not funny. it's just that's the.
It's not
We started calling Puff Daddy P. Diddy, and look where that led us.
that's a better argument against pronouns.
No,
That's a better joke to argue against pronouns.
This joke is so tired, and I can't believe this. I think that a lot of it going viral is people going, wow, really still?
Yeah.
In 2024?
It's also just nothing. I did watch a few clips of this guy because I love to laugh. I love to chuckle, you know.
You watch Family Guy and stuff. You
I
like the
watched a
dark.
lot of twisted, fucked up shit. I watched The Joker twice, and I had to turn it off the second time because it was too twisted.
Right.
I watched the Joker trailer for the new one. Volume off, too twisted.
Yeah.
He said something about, the chaos. But the first clip I saw is him on one of those stand-up without a net type shows where you get it's crowd work, but it's just prompts. And one of them is, it's like stores or something like that. And he has to do so much lift to like travel across the real estate all the way to, you ever been there with a woman? What's going on with these women, guys? The prompt would have led there no matter what. In the special, I was able to watch 5 minutes of before it gave me the impact of reverse caffeine this morning. Ruined my morning.
It gave you lethargy?
Just made me tired. It was in the first 3 minutes with no like organic segues between them. Comedian destroys feminism.
Right.
Talks about COVID.
Get them.
Destroys kind of women a little more, like so specifically.
Hell
blue
yeah,
hair.
dude.
The pronouns is kind of touching on that. I don't think feminism is specifically related to pronouns. Just women have them, so I guess that's there
Shouldn't
as well.
have had him if you didn't want to get got by the comedy beam.
Yeah, that's a little thing called irony.
Yeah.
You'd better get used to that for this show, and that doesn't do any of those
Oh, we're going to
jokes.
have fun if you're laughing at that one.
You gotta be scared.
I don't know if you guys saw Big Joel's most recent video, but
Oh, conservative comedy one.
Yeah, one of the things with Ricky Gervais is that like he'll do that and then go on podcast and do a tour of like, don't call a joke offensive. Say it offended you, and it's like, so you're nitpicking language.
Yeah. Okay, semantics. You got me.
Yeah, and it's
Don't say you don't like my comedy. Say that you thought you don't like my comedy special.
that my comedy isn't bad, and my comedy wasn't for you.
Right.
Oh, what's the
You got
fucking
it.
difference?
Okay,
Like,
well, 1 star still.
Have you ever heard of New Schwabenland?
New Schwabenland.
You never heard of New Schwabenland?
No.
Have you ever heard of Operation High Jump?
his attitude is actually
At one
hilarious.
point, he's back in his 5th grader mode. It was like, do you like Hot Wheels? Have you ever seen Coco Melon? Do you like that Simpsons?
So at one point, some people are like, what's going on with Antarctica? So they send this cat named Admiral Byrd up to investigate with a giant fleet, just a fleet to go bang, bro. And according to his journal that they found,
pause.
He's a horrible storyteller on top of
This is
anything. That's his
incomprehensible.
biggest problem. And that's
What the hell?
My guess is, I always don't want to credit somebody to being kind of like a grifter, because I think one of the things is I think some people that get labeled grifters are also just like in those algorithms themselves and actually just truly believe that. Someone like Elon, I think, is actually just brain rotted himself and then bought the website that brain rotted him. And brain rotted himself. My guess is because he's not, and he's done more stand up than me, but like, if you're not that successful and not that great of a storyteller, you probably get a bit resentful, and then you probably think some crowds don't laugh at your jokes because of this or that. And then
Well,
you
you're
fall-
bombing, all comics bomb, it's nothing to do with the material.
I mean, you can even tell a fleet to go bang, bro. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He also, what did he call the person? He didn't say this guy.
Oh, this cat.
This cat.
This cat. Yeah,
This
okay.
groovy cat.
This groovy cat.
This smooth diggy dogs. Went up with a fleety pie.
Named Admiral Alaska or whatever.
fleet, just a fleet to go bang, bro. And
A
according
fleet to go bang, bro. Wait, okay, sorry. God, he's so bad at
No,
this.
wait, just let.
In just the past 2 weeks, we've seen protests on college campuses grow from isolated demonstrations on campuses like Columbia University in New York City into a full-blown nationwide movement with supports from students and a public that has grown hoarse from screaming enough is enough after each and every report of death and destruction that comes out of Israel's war on Palestine. And the constant bewilderment that comes as a result of our leaders' commitment to continue funding this war with our own tax dollars, despite the staggering and horrific violence and dehumanization that is on full display, not only through intrepid reporting on the ground, but also from humanitarian groups, volunteer medical staff, citizens themselves, and a near endless supply of graphic and upsetting video footage that is, in many cases, filmed by members of the Israeli army themselves, where they appear to find glee in the death and destruction that they are causing as retaliation to an attack back on October 7th.
So since the conflict began, over 35,000 people have been killed, and honestly, at this point, they stopped counting. There's no way to count. That was the number 3 months ago at this point. It's probably a lot higher, and even back then, people who analyze this shit for a living were saying that it was already being undercounted. We won't know the full extent for a long time, but it's a lot of fucking people that have been killed, and a substantial amount of those people are women, children, or just men who aren't in Hamas, who have families and want to live. They're dead. In addition to that, nearly 100 journalists have been killed, alongside over 200 humanitarian aid workers. And in one well-documented case from back in December, Israeli forces also killed at least 3 of the very hostages that they were purportedly attempting to save by initiating this massive war on Palestine. In just the past few weeks alone, the IDF killed 7 humanitarian aid workers who were there with the World Central Kitchen to provide meals to a population that is intentionally being starved by the actions of the IDF, and Israeli citizens who have sabotaged or blocked resources and aid from entering the country. They're just sitting there at the gate. No, no food gets through here. We're the good guys, by the way. And yeah, it's to the point where, bafflingly, the United States has been forced to build a new pier on the coast of Gaza in order to bring in humanitarian aid, because our friends, the state of Israel, won't let it happen. Yeah. So our good friends who we love, we're just gonna...
The ones that we're giving billions of dollars to.
The ones who we love, who can do nothing wrong, and if you disagree, you're an anti-Semite. They're not letting us feed these starving people, so we
gotta build a pier.
We're just gonna build our own pier.
Yeah, so clearly, U.S. officials are aware of how dire the situation is, which is bizarre. It's a bizarre thing to think about when our country is providing funding to the country that is starving the one that we are also appearing to want to help. It seems like the easier option would just be to tell them to knock it off with the fucking war crimes and maybe stop sending them billions upon billions of dollars to do so. No amount of finger wagging is going to stop Netanyahu or the IDF from doing what they are doing when they've been given the tacit approval of everything by way of massive U.S. funding.
Yeah, and they have so many bombs and bullets that they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
We don't have to be careful about how we use these things. We've got 1 million of them, and we've got a blank check for 1 million more, so just let that shit fly.
And it's not just a bunch of scholars, historians, humanitarians, and college students who are furious about what's happening in Palestine right now. The United Nations has launched probes into the actions of Israel and recently adopted a resolution that calls for Israel to be held accountable for possible war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip. In response to this, a representative for Israel in Geneva, quote, accused the council of having long abandoned the Israeli people and long defended Hamas.
So more recently than that, the International Criminal Court is reportedly on the cusp of issuing arrest warrants for members of the Israeli government over accusations of their involvement in, quote, preventing the delivery of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip and pursuing an excessively harsh response to the Hamas-led October 7th attacks on Israel, according to 2 of the 5 officials, all of whom spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the matter. It was later reported by NBC News that Israel is greatly concerned that the International Criminal Court may issue arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and senior military officials as early as this week, an Israeli official told NBC News. Now, we should point out, the ICC has not officially confirmed these warrants as of when we filmed this, and the original investigation also involved arrest warrants for Hamas leaders, and despite the rumor of arrest warrants for members of the Israeli government lacking confirmation, top Israeli officials almost immediately said there would be consequences if such warrants were issued. And those consequences would, of course, be mainly directed at the Palestinian Authority, but the Palestinians.
Yeah,
More people will die until conditions improve.
Needless to say, it's quite easy to understand why a bunch of college students at a pivotal moment of their lives, in a situation where they are actually able to make a change, or at the very least, voice their displeasure at the fact that our country is connected and complicit in a war that has resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people who had already been marginalized, bullied, discriminated against, and killed for decades leading up to this most recent siege. I guess you could understand why they're upset.
No, they're being paid by Iran somehow. Iran, a country with no access to the global banking system, is paying for all of these Costco tents and all of these pallets of Costco water.
Yeah.
How'd they get that water? That's a lot of water. It's fucking $4, you idiot.
So these protests, they're also coming at a time where one politician in particular, Joe Biden, is in a position where his decisions, actions, and responses to the concerns of his own citizens will significantly alter the outcome of this year's election. And so far, he has completely failed on that front by, at best, simply stating that Israel's violent response has been a little over the top, and at worst, vilifying the students who are involved in the campus protests.
Hey, that's not fair. Biden has, on numerous occasions, been privately very concerned and upset.
Yes.
According to sources. So, you know, he's still giving them everything they want, but he feels really bad about that, and I think that counts.
He's wagging his finger, shaking his head to let everyone know that he disapproves, while also basically writing blank checks with our taxpayer dollars.
Also, I don't know why you kids are so mad. I just legalized weed. Well, sort of.
That was such a funny gimmick. Like, toss something out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news. It's the kind of thing I'm like, you could have done that in days. Yeah. You clearly, obviously waited for a moment when your approval among the important voting bloc that you need to win this election, because they were pivotal to winning the last election, does not like you at all.
No.
You're throwing them a bone, and it's
kicking our system.
we're not falling for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're not experts in political strategy,
There they are.
but we would assume that alienating and vilifying entire generations of citizens over their protests of violent destruction overseas, which is being financed by U.S. taxpayer dollars, and these students' own tuition payments, thanks to these institutions being invested in various weapons manufacturers and companies with direct ties to Israel's war on Gaza. It seems like a stupid fucking move for a person who represents the political party that should be, in theory, ideologically opposed to what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah.
But no! Instead, Biden did a whole press conference, an unannounced one. Those are always the good ones. A whole press conference about how the students are protesting wrong, as if there's some totally perfect way to protest that has never been tried before, to the point of exhaustion over the many, many, many years of unrest this country has seen.
They're not protesting the specific way that I want them to protest. Oh, what way is that? It's a secret. You can't know about it.
The secret is vote. You vote.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending cycle of Democrats seeming to defend people's right to protest in like the very abstract sense, but in reality, no, not like that. Also, not like that. Not like that either, actually.
And certainly not like that.
Yeah.
But you'll find a way. Mm-hmm. And obviously,
this was so. This pissed me off. Like I'm already on like. I'm already on.
You're already cranked up.
I'm already on the razor's edge. Okay. And this shit drove me insane. This man went on TV like 12 hours after like the LAPD went into a relatively extremely peaceful protest and made it violent. Yeah. And he's going on TV being like, these students, they're just so violent.
And that comes after a night where peaceful protests turned violent because of a fucking pro-Israeli people coming to start shit.
A bunch of freaks showed up with like fireworks and sticks and beat the shit out of students while the LAPD just sat there.
Well, what are we gonna do?
And then the way this is framed the next day from the president and on all the major news networks is like
how violent the protests are.
Yeah, thank God those police went in and stopped the violence.
Now, obviously, there are even more reprehensible and outrageous actions and statements coming out of conservatives and the extreme right regarding these protests and just the war in general.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the blatant hypocrisy regarding what they consider freedom of speech, the actual anti-Semitism that runs rampant among their ranks, that this war in Palestine is actually the first step in fulfilling the end times prophecy that they believe will result in the return of Jesus Christ and an entirely Christian world, and the general anti-Muslim sentiment that's always been there. Also, the fact that every major conflict could ultimately benefit their attempts at installing a true authoritarian government here. It's unthinkable that right now, President Biden seems to be doing everything in his power to alienate and vilify a generation of educated and engaged citizens, when you consider what's actually on the line here.
Yeah, the whole like vote for me or we get fascism argument, it really gets pretty seriously undermined when you look at what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so you're saying that if
Things will get this
if
bad.
we vote for you again, what are you saying? Like it'll be worse?
On the opposite end, it's like
At least the other guy's not the one beating you with sticks?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
It's like Trump campaigning on this stuff previously, where he was showing video from during his own administration saying it was Joe Biden's America.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to not have people realize that that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's God.
But then again, as we've seen over the past few weeks, the line between the two parties continues to blur, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to say that things could be worse, despite that actually being true.
Yeah, no, they all joined hands this week to pass
Chant fuck Joe Biden. The protesters did.
The Congress all joined hands this week to like try and pass some laws that basically make it like a law that criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, we get to that.
Which, yeah, so the most glaring example is the actions of the police at the behest of local officials who have stormed into otherwise peaceful protests decked out with riot gear in just the most insane numbers. The numbers that would make you believe that war is happening on U.S. soil. The videos that have been coming out of these campuses over the past week have been especially damning. And the result so far is that over 2,000 protesters across the nation have been arrested, with some students being assaulted by counter-protesters, as well as the police themselves. Students and faculty. Some of them just little old ladies.
Yeah.
Had to do it to them, I guess.
Some of them students who were shot in the face with less than lethal rounds.
One of them, a little old lady who was literally the head of the Jewish Studies department at her university.
Yeah.
What an anti-Semite. So UCLA in particular was the most recent shocking scene where, beginning late on Tuesday night, counter-protesters repeatedly attempted to instigate a violent confrontation with anti-war protesters by trying to break through a barricade, throwing items, assaulting people, lighting off fireworks towards the encampments, and more. All while, conveniently in this scenario, the police just stood by, played a little bit of Candy Crush, took some footage, just did fucking nothing for hours while getting paid by my fucking taxes.
Yeah, one day later, police moved into the encampment area, started dismantling everything and arresting students while in full head-to-toe riot gear. Oh, and then complaining about the mess that was left behind when they were finished, as if the students had time to clean things up as they were being forced out of the area and arrested. Wow, look at these filthy protesters with all their trash everywhere. They must actually hate the climate. Oh, no, we were like forcibly being shoved out of the area. So these arrests followed another chaotic night over in New York City, where officials at Columbia University ordered police to enter the campus halls and, quote, restore safety and order, which resulted in shocking images of arrests amid claims that these protests were not only violent, but that terrorists were involved, and that the movement was being infiltrated by non-students who were there for nefarious reasons.
Yeah, they got these crazy bike locks that you can't get anywhere except on the official Columbia University website, where they recommend that specific bike lock.
And many of these claims were debunked almost immediately, including the somehow shocking revelation that students need bike chains to, get this, lock up their bikes. Also, as was pointed out immediately after the press conference, where NYPD reps held up a bike lock as proof of professional involvement in the protest.
This is a terrorist bike lock.
The so-called terrorist bike lock weapons were actually, as Elliot mentioned, these bike locks were listed for sale and endorsed on the Columbia University's own website.
There was, I saw a clip of like a cop literally holding it, and a reporter, a local reporter, is like, showed him on her phone, like, he's like, that's not the same one. No.
Terrorist bike. You don't understand. The tiny journalist brain.
We are being gaslit at every fucking level. It is driving me insane.
Yeah.
Grenade!
So following the raid on Columbia's campus and in what can only be described as completely fucking dystopian and bizarre fashion, the NYPD released a quick sizzle reel of their very cool operation where they went onto a college campus to make arrests and bust a few skulls for the inexcusable crime of challenging the government's war machine, being upset that their tuition is funding a genocide, and protesting the, as Biden himself puts it, over-the-top response from Israel toward the Palestinian people. The a 5-minve documentary, which is edited like an intense action movie. It legitimately feels like something out of like a Paul Verhoeven movie. And we're not exactly sure that the NYPD and Mayor Eric Adams are going to get the response they anticipated out of basically doing a marketing reel for abuse and brutality at the hands of the police.
Hey, looks pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, who, by the way, constantly and justifiably being critiqued for standing around playing mobile games instead of stopping actual crime.
But hey, when there's skulls to bust over at the college protests, break out the riot gear.
It's just, yeah, like,
there's a lot of things you could look at and say, wow, look, this response is outrageous
dressed
considering...
up like you're going to war to go against a bunch of like 19-year-olds.
Yeah, rolling up in...
Feel real strong.
What amounts to
What a big
tanks.
man.
Yeah.
But yeah, or in the case of the troopers on the University of Texas campus, being big, tough guys and roughing up protesters, while just a few years ago, they all stood outside of an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, while there was an active gunman inside, killing all the children. Yeah. Which, it does warm my heart a little bit that has now caught on as a popular protest chant in Texas. Yeah. Being like, you let those children die at Uvalde. Essentially.
And now you're here
never let them forget that shit.
Roughing us up for literally sitting on campus with signs.
Also, the Texas protests, they're like, some of these protesters had guns
Loading
on them.
fresh mag.
It's like, yeah.
It's Texas.
You're in Texas.
That's the law.
You passed laws that make that legal. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You don't like people walking around with concealed guns on them? That's on you.
Changing mag.
Speaking of twisting the truth to fit a specific narrative, it doesn't get more aggravating than elected officials and members of the news media framing these protests and the student protesters as something they are not. Over the past 2 weeks, if your primary source of information was mainstream outlets and channels, these protesters were immediately called terrorists, or pro-Hamas, or anti-Semitic, and every other negative term that could be thrown at them instead of anyone just simply listening to why they were protesting, which is that the students at Columbia and now other colleges wanted their universities to divest from companies that support Israel's war on Palestine, and for the war to come to an end in general, but specifically the fact that their tuition is helping to finance the genocide.
Yeah, and these protests, by the way, especially in certain schools, primarily led by Jewish organizations, like Jewish Voice for Peace.
Involving
those dirty anti-Semites.
Teachers themselves also being involved. Instead of that, all these protesters were simply labeled anti-Semitic terrorists, and politicians and police have used their discretion to clamp down on the protests and convince people that it's actually okay to bust these kids up and arrest them.
Yeah, police in this moment, they're actually Antifa.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're fighting Nazis.
They are dressed in all black in a lot of the scenarios. And,
yeah, they're black locked. So in one particularly damning scenario, as reported on by Ken Klippenstein, who, side note, you can go read his entire post about it, but he quit his job at the Intercept in protest and is going solo. So you should go support his solo venture if you can afford it. He is the FOIA king.
Yeah.
Nobody can FOIA like the Clip Man.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll leave links below. You can check it out. But in one of his first reports after leaving the Intercept, Klippenstein backtraces the claim that students on college campuses were chanting and promoting death to America, a fabricated piece of information that media organizations and politicians have since claimed is a key slogan of the protests, and one that they've used to rally opposition and demand action against those students, protesters, and university presidents around the country. Turns out,
yeah,
there were no chants. There's no organized effort to bring about the death of America through these protests. And it was all sparked by one anonymous flyer on a campus in Michigan. But it's a great example of the lengths that some are willing to go to in order to claim that this movement is something it's not. Also, just people are really bad at fucking scale. We saw this with the George Floyd protests, but like, you know, when actions are unfolding in every major U.S. city, like if you want to paint a picture that everyone involved in this is bad, you can probably find enough like quick clips of footage to assemble together to paint that picture.
Yep.
And that's been
definitely
pretty fucking annoying too. You would think, based on the way this is being presented, that
there is a bunch of anti-Semites out fighting Jewish people on college campuses.
There's no such thing as a perfect protest, and to expect that is just, you're delusional.
Yeah. Also, just considering the very human nature of You're just sitting around and making your voices heard, and then cops show up in riot gear.
Yeah.
That is going to exacerbate tensions.
No, it's a police riot.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's some selects from Ken Klippenstein's piece, which you can read in full using the link in the description below.
The FBI is being pressed by members of Congress to investigate the student protests, both for possible foreign financing and for students chanting "Death to America," a phrase Fox News says is becoming a key slogan of the protests. There's just one problem. Students never said it. I've searched, scoured photographs, and waded through social media. There's no evidence that any of the student demonstrators taking to dozens of college campuses in recent weeks to protest Israel's war in Gaza said "Death to America." The rumor began with a single incident in which an anonymously authored pamphlet found at a University of Michigan encampment contained a passage saying, "Freedom for Palestine means death to America." And Klippenstein then provides numerous examples of this phrase being used against the protest movement from countless talking heads and elected officials on all sides of the political spectrum, and his reporting continues.
Last month, 5 Republican congresspeople representing Michigan, which has a large Muslim population, sent a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland calling for an investigation into "Death to America" chants. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell also referenced the phrase in remarks on the Senate floor regarding higher education and judicial nominations. Quote, "Chants of 'We are Hamas' and 'Death to America' by students on college campuses are national security threats," Senator Marsha Blackburn said on X, formerly Twitter. "Put any student who promotes terrorism on behalf of Hamas on the terrorist watch list." That is not what's happening. As a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which oversees the FBI, there's little doubt that Blackburn's statement reached FBI headquarters, and such ignorance might even prod them to action. So, yeah, he speaks about how the FBI is absolutely already involved with these universities and details how the relationships between universities and investigators came to exist, but ends with this important note about these specific "Death to America" claims. Investigations hover in the background, as much looking for federal offenses as responding to them. None of this is because there is any intelligence validating a controlling foreign hand or financing of the student protests. It is, in fact, the news media frenzy that is the most dangerous. Fox and other conservative outlets repeat the false allegation that the students are chanting "Death to America." Commentators and even members of Congress pick up the claim without checking. Social media becomes saturated, and the new reality emerges.
Yes. And now, because of things like this and the whole outside agitator accusations, and a week of painting these otherwise peaceful protesters as terrorist sympathizers at best, or at worst, actual terrorists, House Republicans have launched multiple investigations into the college protests in a move that, again, regardless of what the actual protests are about, frame the protests themselves as illegal, chaotic war zones filled with Nazis and terrorists.
Yeah, they're painting this like as if it was like, remember the Chaz up in Seattle, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone?
Yes.
Which even that was way overblown by the media, but it was still like pretty wild turn of events. But they're framing it as that, and like I've seen pictures of like, first of all, college campuses are quite large, especially the universities where this is happening. UCLA is like massive. Yeah. It would take you hours to walk from one end to the other. And yeah, pictures of like, here I am. The protest is in this photo. You can barely see it because it's that little dot right there on the lawn.
So yeah, they are not that. And I think the big problem with elected officials when it comes to these protests in particular is that the demands are morally sound and reasonable. So it's pretty hard to attack the protesters by telling the truth, because the truth is that they're witnessing a genocide and the intentional starvation of a group of people, and they're just trying to make their voices heard in a way that actually affects change.
And that's why we can't talk about any of that. We need to focus specifically on decorum and the right way to protest, and our norms, our precious norms.
Yeah, well, here's the Washington Post with more on these imminent investigations. And please keep in mind that none of the protests across the dozens of campuses have mentioned or promoted anti-Semitism at all.
Excuse me, one of the protests, they said, "We need food, but do not send us bagels," because they hate Jews. But oh wait, I'm finding out they had just hundreds of bagels. They have too many bagels, so they didn't need any more bagels.
Well, no, we got the audio clip. Run with it.
Yep.
But yes, keep in mind that like these protests, they're not promoting anti-Semitism or anything like that. We've already been over it. Their demands are very simple, but keep that in mind when you read the article.
House Republicans are deploying their oversight powers to scrutinize pro-Palestinian protests and anti-Semitism on college campuses, aiming to highlight the hot-button issue ahead of the November election. At least 4 Republican committee chairs are now investigating the student-led demonstrations as part of what House Speaker Mike Johnson has described as a house-wide probe of anti-Semitism in America. The scale of the investigative efforts highlights the GOP's eagerness to use the protests, which divide the Democratic Party and draw attention away from former President Donald Trump's criminal trial, as a political cudgel. Johnson has led the charge, visiting Columbia University last week and blaming Democrats for unleashing what he called lawlessness and chaos.
Following Johnson's example, a handful of GOP lawmakers made a trek across Washington on Wednesday to hold a news conference at GWU's pro-Palestinian encampment. Shortly after the lawmakers' appearance, the House passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which would require the Education Department to employ the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism to enforce anti-discrimination laws. The bill, introduced by Representative Michael Lawler, was approved on a bipartisan basis, 320 to 91, with a minority of Democrats and Republicans voting against the bill over concerns that it would infringe on Americans' First Amendment rights. And again, this is another one of the bills or the acts that it really sounds good when you just read the title of it.
Yeah, man, I think we can all agree anti-Semitism is bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
this is not anti-Semitism.
They're using creative wording to clamp down on people's freedom of speech while also labeling them as anti-Semitic for simply disagreeing with Israel.
Also, everyone involved in crafting that definition for the International Holocaust Remembrance group has gone on record saying, hey, we did that just like for our own purposes. You really shouldn't be passing any laws based on this definition. That would be insane. Please don't do that. Anyway, all of this is to say that one of the major turning points in these protests were the claims that Jewish students felt unsafe on campus because of the protests, despite there being zero evidence that any students were in danger because of student protesters. It seems almost too simple to point out the irony of actual student safety as hundreds of police officers are busting through encampments and into universities across the country over the past week or so, arresting people and in some cases shooting them with beanbags or filling the air with pepper spray. Seems like a hell of a lot of students probably feel a lot less safe than they did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we'll leave it there for now. That was nice to get off my chest.
Yeah.
But that's where things are, and it is so frustrating. I don't like where anything is headed.
No.
Feels like we are on a train.
A crazy train.
A crazy train. We're coming off the rails.
It's
on a crazy train.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes. Millions of people living as fools. Anyway, I'll leave it with that. But before we move on, we do want to promote the bail funds for students across the country because, a lot of them getting thrown in jail. If you're looking for a way to help and are confused about where you can affect the most change, please head to campusbailfunds.com.
Link in the description.
A great, easy website. You just type it in. Our friend Jordan set it up. And yeah, it has specific links for each campus as well as a national charity organization that distributes funds where they're needed most. We'll leave a link down below. And yeah, any pocket change you can throw in there would help a ton.
Yeah, and it feels weird to cover something else after all of that, especially after seeing the never-ending onslaught of upsetting videos and reporting from the past 2 weeks. And I'm sure that I'm forgetting some important points that I wanted to make or things that I wanted to mention specifically that have been bouncing around in my brain for the past few days, but Pobody's nerfed. So yeah, apologies for that. Also, it might be jarring that you're hearing about serious stuff from 2 silly YouTube guys, but we're trying to use our shred of influence to attempt to set the record straight about what's going on. And if we didn't try to help, an entire generation of people would be stuck listening to a guy who rubs his bloody gums all over his bedroom walls attempt to manufacture consent for an authoritarian police state in between marathon sessions of Warcraft or something.
He really is a disgusting human being.
Yeah, who is really leaning into the worst parts of his community.
Yeah, I mean, like, Twitch streamers, I think, are just like, there's something in the gene that makes you want to stream is also the same gene that makes you way more inclined to just reactionary politics in general. There are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, that's the way it goes. But hey, let's somehow find a way to pivot into some updates and other stories to lighten the mood a bit. Or at least distract.
Yeah.
Okay, here's something that will definitely lighten the mood.
Cool.
Death dogs.
Oh.
Well, okay. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, she killed her dog. Yes, we talked about this. That was...
Actually, Look, if you're coming here thinking that we're going to be able to provide you with some kind of ultra in-depth analysis of the Kendrick Lamar and Drake battle that's been playing out over the past, well, month now or so, then we're sorry to disappoint, because this is, of course, way outside of our wheelhouse. Not that it's overly complex, but the backgrounds, the drama, rumors, interpersonal as well as business relationships, celebrity gossip, record label drama, and so on make this a rap beef that is so wrapped up in minutia that we have no business trying to explain it all, because many people have already done it better. They've done it more thorough, and they've done it through a lens of constant engagement in the hip-hop scene and the drama surrounding these artists for the past 15 years or so. One thing that I think both of us can agree on, though, and we did agree on before even this beef went nuclear, was that regardless of what they're fighting about, we think that Kendrick Lamar is a much better artist than Drake.
Yeah.
Now, when the first hints of this latest battle started bubbling up online recently, I mean, all I could think was, why would Drake want to go up against Kendrick Lamar?
He has a Pulitzer Prize.
It sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
But, hey, turns out he wanted to anyway, and I think it ended up being a bad idea based on what we've seen so far. Now, having said that, everything could have changed by the time this video goes up.
Yeah, that's the thing about this. You're asking us to cover something we're not really all that knowledgeable about, and also a story that is just constantly
Gotta
changing.
stem this
Yes.
bleeding.
Minute by minute.
New songs are being uploaded every 12 hours.
Yeah, it's
Don't have time
there's a
for
lot
this.
going on.
So yeah, we're just gonna gloss over the whole thing and try our best to point out the most significant things that have happened over the past few days, specifically over the weekend, that turned this drama into arguably the biggest rap beef since the 1990s, which we should remind you did not end well for almost anyone involved. It was bad. A lot of shining bright stars were extinguished way too young. But still, it's impossible to deny just how massive and widespread this weekend's audio assault really was, because you had two of the biggest names in hip-hop attacking each other with increased ferocity over the course of multiple diss track drops, each one becoming more devastating than the last. Tens of thousands of tweets, hundreds of reaction videos, dozens of streamers reacting live as new tracks were being dropped online at seemingly random times, all taking place inside of a social media arena with multiple fan bases going at it for hours with still no end in sight.
Having said that, a new diss track, or hell, 4 new diss tracks could drop while we're filming or editing this video. So there is no way for us to be fully updated on what's going on because of the nature of how we do videos. So instead, we're just going to give you a somewhat brief overview of how we got here, why this is happening, and what these two artists are claiming about one another in these songs. Apparently, the feud started all the way back in 2013, which is the first time that Kendrick called Drake out on a song, and the song was called Control. And Kendrick calls out a handful of rappers by name and basically says he's going to crush them all. He wants to be the best in the game.
Yeah,
So get out of his way.
it's pretty normal rap shit, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty lighthearted, especially compared to the tracks this past weekend. And no one mentioned in the lyrics seemed to care all that much publicly, except for Drake, who apparently took that personally.
He took that person.
Since he'd taken Kendrick out on a tour the year before that track dropped. So he was probably just like, hey man, what the hell?
Not cool, very uncool, very ungrateful. Kendrick Lamar, you take him out on a tour. What does he do?
Then he says he wants to be the best in the rap game.
No, I'm sorry, Kendrick. There's already a best, and it's me, Aubrey Drake. What's his last name?
Graham?
Graham.
Gotta stem
The
this
wheelchair
bleeding.
kid from Degrassi.
That's right.
Again, we're gonna have to bear with
Loading fresh mag.
if we gloss over or just outright miss important parts of this story or the context of it. But again, there's so many video essays out there with hardcore fans with like PhD level knowledge about all of this. So if you want something incredibly lengthy and in-depth, the search bar is right up there.
Yeah.
Trust me. But yeah, both artists took shots at each other on their respective albums a few years after the initial diss. But to the outside world, this just seemed like, again, standard harmless beef between two big artists.
So maybe even manufactured. Because up until recently, it just was generic kind of name calling
Yeah.
and calling people out.
Now, if you do go check out other analysis of this feud, there are a ton of bumps along the way with drama related to production, relationships, record labels, alliances within the industry, and so on. But let's just fast forward to the impetus for this latest battle. The 2023 release of a Drake track featuring artist J. Cole called First Person Shooter, where he delivered the relatively innocuous line, "Love when they argue the hardest MC. Is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey, or me?"
So, oh wow, ooh, shots fired. Oh wow, oh.
Didn't he also say he followed that lineup with being like, "We're all great. We're the big three."
Yeah.
Like,
Taking rounds.
I think it's great that we're all making great rap music. But Kendrick, he took that personally.
Yeah, Kendrick responded to this on a track alongside Future and Metro Boomin, where he simply stated, "Motherfuck the big three, it's just Big Me." Which again, it seems pretty tame, all things considered.
Yeah.
Especially for a rap beef between the genre's biggest artists.
Requesting
Nevertheless,
flyover.
it persisted, and a few months later, J. Cole would release a track called 7 Minute Drill on a mixtape with the ultimately prophetic title, Might Delete Later.
Because he did.
Yeah, in this track, more specifically the part about Kendrick, J. Cole does a quick review of Lamar's discography, which isn't even that hard of a dig. He praises some of the albums that he's talking about, but complains about Kendrick's release schedule and that it's lacking. There's too many years here. You gotta release more stuff. When I would say, if I was looking at an artist's collection, whether it's movies, albums, or whatever, that sometimes taking your time between releases is a good thing.
Sometimes you gotta do less.
Yeah.
We're not all
Loading fresh mag.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And even them, I'd appreciate if they slowed down. Just for my own sanity.
Yes. Well, like we said about the title of J. Cole's mixtape being prophetic, J. Cole would quickly go ahead and take down the track and essentially issue a full apology for releasing it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, and he did so on stage during his music festival, Greenville, saying that dropping the track was, quote, spiritually bad on me, and adding the following.
I tried to jab Lamar back, and I try to keep it friendly, but at the end of the day, when I listen to it, and when it comes out and I see the talk, that don't sit right with my spirit. That disrupts my peace. And then praising Kendrick's work and getting support for Kendrick from the crowd during his sort of apology.
Yeah.
Which very, emotionally mature. Just like, wait, what am I doing?
I don't get caught up in this. We all love Kendrick, right, folks? And then the whole crowd's like, yes, we do. We do love Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, I'm good. You know what? I'm going to happily put this behind me. Can't wait to move forward and never hear about this again.
Yeah.
Until...
So yeah, he also alluded to the fact that he'd been under pressure to respond and call out Kendrick from his inner circle and how he deeply regrets the decision to make and release the track.
Yeah.
Whoops. Oh well. He accidentally sparked a new war that would eventually result in actual accusations of criminal activity and grooming between two of the biggest artists in modern music. So the J. Cole track, subsequent deletion, and Dreamville performance, they all happened over the course of a couple days, early last month. But things only really started cooking last week. And I can think of two websites in particular who are absolutely loving all the traffic associated with this. Genius.com, the lyrics website, and the platform formerly known as Twitter. This beef was so massive that despite having absolutely nothing of substance to add to the conversation, Elon Musk still acknowledged it in the dorkiest way possible, saying, "Everyone is talking about this battle." And also, saying they should do a rap battle on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
Shut up, dork.
Yeah.
Literal fucking NPC response.
Yeah, I think it was it Felix
Linda
Biederman?
is rubbing off on him.
I think was it Felix Biederman who said this is the kind of thing that a Saints Row pedestrian would say when they walk by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about this battle. Amazing. So, anyways, a few days after J. Cole released and deleted 7 Minute Drill, Drake decided to throw caution to the wind and take direct aim at Kendrick on a track called Push-Ups, where he basically said that Kendrick is just nowhere close to his level, and then pokes fun at Kendrick Lamar's height.
I didn't realize how small he was.
Yeah.
That makes me like him more.
And also comments on how Kendrick is lame for working with pop artists, which is very odd because Drake is very close to being just a straight-up pop artist in his own right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all heard Drake songs. We've all heard Kendrick songs. Pretty clear who's putting out stuff that is intentionally catchy and who's putting out stuff that is simply undeniably good.
find medical.
Maybe that's personal preference. We'll leave it to you.
Yeah.
But not to go on a complete tangent, nothing Drake has ever done will live up to the audience reaction anytime Kendrick has performed Mad City live. It's just, I'm sorry. I've seen him live. It was one of the best rap performances that I've ever seen. And if you need some impartial proof, just look at the time that he performed at South by Southwest, and the audience broke the goddamn dance floor when that track came on.
Yeah. I don't hear about Drake breaking any floor.
So I'm sorry, but there's no way for us to not see bias in this conversation. It's just so one-sided.
Yeah.
Also, we live in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, we do have to rep the home team a bit. Sorry, Canada. You got Drake. We've got Kendrick Lamar and about 100 other rappers.
Yes.
But yeah, Drake drops that song, Push Ups, and then a few days later drops another track called Tailor Made Freestyle, where he once again references Taylor Swift, but also inexplicably decided to use artificial intelligence to have Tupac and Snoop Dogg rap on the track, and also inexplicably brought up accusations that Drake was being weird with Drake bringing up his own accusations.
Through the voice of the long-deceased Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. Everybody disliked that. So you remember that this is a Drake track. It wouldn't be the first time that he would have to defend himself from these accusations. But it's specifically weird that he used an AI Tupac to bring it up. And what we can only imagine was an attempt to like get out in front of whatever Kendrick was cooking.
Like he knew that was gonna come up.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I will certainly be taking all the wind out of Kendrick's sails by...
By the way, before you ask, not a pedophile. Anyways, yeah, Drake had to remove this track from official sources because, Tupac's estate got involved and understandably was like, what the fuck is this shit? Get it out of here. They issued a cease and desist against Drake for using his likeness in a song without permission. It was also weird that Drake used an AI version of Snoop Dogg on the track, considering Snoop Dogg is still very much alive and provided a very confused response to his artificial inclusion on the track. Here you go.
Don't shoot me, you bastard! Change your backs. Secure, kill confirmed. Reloading.
This is especially funny too, because Snoop Dogg he's a Danny Trejo of rap music. He cannot say no to any invitation to guest on a track, any track.
Yeah, but I mean, he also comes from intelligence.
Yeah, he wouldn't have done this.
He wouldn't have done this.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it is.
But like just like on my Discover Weekly on Spotify, like there hardly a week goes by without a new track featuring Snoop Dogg. Similarly, Iggy Pop. I think that's the only thing keeping Iggy Pop like alive and healthy is that he just anytime the phone calls, he's like, yeah, I'll do a verse on your song.
Iggy Pop has to stay in good shape because it is a contractual obligation that he perform with his shirt.
Yeah, the man does not own a single shirt.
But also, yeah, bringing like I know that Snoop Dogg has been not as edgy in the past decade or two.
Yeah.
But like bringing Snoop Dogg into this when his reputation from the 90s exists, like probably not the smartest move, but I don't know. Kendrick has the next move, releasing a track called Euphoria. And that was just last week, and it included digs at Drake's rumored failings as a parent, how he turns his blackness off and on when it benefits him, rumors regarding Drake getting plastic surgery, and then justifiably calling him out for using AI to resurrect a dead rapper. A few days after that, but before Drake was able to upload a response to it, Kendrick released another track called 616 in LA. And that one was produced by Taylor Swift's producer Jack Antonoff, which would seem to indicate that Kendrick simply doesn't care about being called out for working with certain artists. In this track, he claims to have a mole inside of Drake's crew who is feeding him insider information to use against him. A claim that Drake would eventually use against Kendrick in subsequent releases. Are you exhausted yet?
Yes.
No, you're not. At least I hope not, because later that night, Drake dropped another track that seemed like it would be his kill shot against Kendrick if such a thing were even possible.
Yeah, so on Friday night, Drake dropped Family Matters, which, among many other accusations, claimed that one of Kendrick's kids isn't actually his, and alluded that it might be his manager's child. Also that Kendrick abused his partner, cheated on her, and that Kendrick was the one behind Tupac's estate issuing a cease and desist for the other track. Within just a few short hours of the release of Drake's Family Matters, another diss track hit the internet. when Kendrick dropped Meet the Grams, which fed into the idea that maybe Kendrick did have a mole in Drake's inner circle because they were thematically consistent. In Meet the Grams, Kendrick pulls no punches, directly addresses Drake's son and other members of his family, including an apparent second, Mr. President,
A second
hidden secret love child that Drake apparently fathered. Now, in this track, Kendrick starts to go after Drake for being a predator. But if this song was just alluding to all of that, the next one would be Kendrick's version of the proverbial kill shot.
Yeah. Now, we should probably start this song's explanation with an explanation, though we will keep it brief because at the end of the day, they are talking about sexual abuse and the potential abuse of minors. But Drake has a pretty shaky past when it comes to his involvement with girls who are young.
Dude, yeah, there is over a decade of receipts, and it is all very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it includes a very famous incident where Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, who was 14 years old at the time, spoke to press about her and Drake were texting all the time and how he was giving her advice regarding boys and stuff like that.
You're pretty mature for your age.
And listen, it might have been some strictly innocuous texting, but regardless of both of them being famous or whatever the excuse was made at the time, it is objectively fucking weird for someone that old to be texting with a 14-year-old, regardless of the context, unless it's like a very close personal family member.
Yeah, it's just, I cannot think of, like, he was like fucking 30 when this was going on. Yeah, I cannot imagine being 30 years old and even just like having anything to talk about with a teenager, a 14-year-old.
Bizarre. And now, in addition to that, the other very public situation that fueled previous rumors was when Drake brought a 17-year-old on stage, kissed her, and then made comments about her breasts. So,
and there's a couple other ones. There was like this one girl that like would like take her out on these whatever essentially like dates, like buying up a whole restaurant to have a private dinner with this child. There's like a couple other ones of him, like photos of him with like teenage celebrities, like clearly like partying and stuff. They got their arms around him. I'm like, bro, like even if this was completely innocent, like
this does not come off.
It doesn't come off that way.
Yeah, bad optics. But that leads us to Kendrick dropping Not Like Us. So the next track in the long line of tracks.
How many tracks are we at this point? 4? 5? Anyway, on this one, Kendrick uses the rumors to go after Drake's apparent proclivity towards young women, even crafting the artwork for the track to appear as though there are multiple sexual predator alert notifications located within Drake's compound. This track not only features arguably the best beat out of all of these diss tracks, it also has some of the most insane and brutal lines about Drake in regards to what we just mentioned. Here's some examples, and listen, the real version is going to sound a lot cooler than it is coming out of my mouth.
And if you want to hear it, it's everywhere.
So here you go. Drake, I hear you like them young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. Get that? That was very good. It's a solid line. It's double.
Well, yes, they get it.
You understand. Mm-hmm. But yeah, brutal, but nothing comes close to the line that really caught on, where he simply states, certified lover boy, certified pedophile.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And yeah, this one's especially weird because, yeah, there was some discourse about whether or not any of these tracks could be played in the club. And simply because of the beat on this one, it's undeniable that it would be a hit. But it has already resulted in videos of people playing it to crowds where some are screaming along with the verse, certified lover boy, certified pedophile, which is an objectively strange and unsettling thing for people to sing in public, regardless of the context.
It is very weird that this is like the button of the song.
Yeah.
It's the yak, yak, yak with this song.
I wouldn't describe any of these tracks as party music, but hey.
Apparently they are. Apparently people are slipping them into, DJs have been playing them all weekend, and I think that'll probably continue. But yes, it is weird to see people, like, I would imagine the ultimate conclusion of this is it being played at a wedding and a bunch of white people singing certified pedophile dancing around at a wedding. It's just bizarre. At this point, there's no coming back for Drake. At least, I don't know. Everyone thought it was over. It's like, how do you bounce back from that kind of attack? Especially when there's at least some documented history of you being a little fucking weird.
Yeah.
Let's just say a little fucking weird. But then, what's that? Is that Aubrey Graham's music?
Oh my God! End it.
Yep, Drake hit back with The Heart, Part 6, where Drake tripped himself up by committing a bunch of unforced errors on a track that might have ended the beef without any need of response from Kendrick
He
himself.
gave himself his own kill shot.
Yeah. Now, on the track, Drake claims that he was the one who started the rumor about a secret daughter and then intentionally leaked it to Kendrick so that he would get caught lying about it or something.
Okay.
He then responds to the accusations of being a pedophile by saying, no, actually, he's not, because he would be in jail if he was. So take that as if that is somehow proof of innocence.
Okay. All right. Also, that his team was intentionally leaking information to Kendrick, but that would really make you wonder why Drake would intentionally start rumors about himself being a pedophile.
Aha!
It hurt itself in confusion.
Yeah.
I only made everyone think that I was a creep and a criminal. Wow, don't you all look stupid? Ha
4D chess from Mr. Aubrey.
I'm gonna wheel away.
Yes.
Also, Drake brought up Millie Bobby Brown by name in his own track. Unforced, again, specifically did not.
That's something that Kendrick did not do.
Yeah,
he didn't
Kendrick-
bring up Millie Bobby Brown by name.
Yeah, that made everyone wonder why the fuck he would do that to himself when no one else brought it up. People also pointed out that Drake said, Drake is not a name that you go and see on no sex offender list, and added that this would be accurate because a sex offender list would include Drake's actual name instead.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, I mean, that
Yeah,
he really nailed it with that one because it would say Aubrey Graham.
objectively correct. So this song also ends with what sounds like Drake raising a white flag and asking for peace, basically saying he's happy that he brought Kendrick back to life, that it was good practice, and he's winding down the battle because Kendrick is just telling lies or something.
Telling lies.
No, papa. But yeah, it's just like, okay, my work here is done. You're welcome, everyone.
Not only did you not do anything,
You all wanted new Kendrick Lamar songs? Well, thanks to me, Drake, you have
Yeah.
them.
yeah, there you go. So that, folks, is where we are as of the time that we started filming this episode.
Let me just quickly. Okay.
Make sure that there hasn't been a new track halfway through this episode.
What is it? Champagne.
Poppy?
Champagne Pop? Is that his Twitter name?
I don't fucking know.
Fucking Christ. Drake.
You're never gonna
Drizzy.
Drizzy.
Okay, so has Drake posted it? Nope, the hard
A
part
collaboration with
says-
Steak. Wow.
And then let's see, Kendrick Lamar. Not Ben Kendrick. Kendrick Lamar.
Nope.
Okay, so yeah, we are up. We're good. As of
Look around.
8:48 p.m. Monday, May 6th.
Yes.
There has been no further
Developments.
music.
Yes. So we'll end this whole big retelling of the story by saying that the general consensus online, this is without my opinion added to it, the general consensus seems to be that Kendrick won the battle, despite Drake releasing the last song and having the final word so far. Again, by the time this video goes up, there could definitely be at least 2 or 3 more tracks that have dropped, and all this would be old news. Also, for what it's worth, neither of us have really ever been Drake fans, but we've both been Kendrick fans. So if you're looking for impartiality, look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and that's for me. I like several of his songs. I'm not even sure I'd call myself a fan. I'm pretty much illiterate when it comes to rap music, but yeah, I mean, Kendrick's got a lot of tracks that I do like.
Yeah.
Drake, not so much. So yeah, that's my take. Not that it's worth anything, but there you go.
So anyways, that was a very long first story to cover, and we somehow have a few more to get to. But first, without wasting any more time, we have a sponsor today.
What?
Yes, great news. So let's thank today's sponsor, and then we'll get on with the rest of the show. Thank you, Yahoo Finance, for sponsoring today's episode. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis that you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. How the heck do you think Elliot keeps tabs on his 10 shares of NVIDIA that he bought 5 years ago and refuses to sell? Well, Yahoo Finance.
That's right. Now let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination. yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. No promo code or anything, just brand awareness, so
Yeah, there you go.
check it out.
Back to the news now, and we have a few updates for you from the stories that we have been covering, and another potential crisis that's temporarily been averted. First, though, let's check in on Kristi Noem, who is somehow continuing to make things far, far worse for herself. Which seems like an impossible task, because this all started with a story that she told in her book about killing her 14-month-old dog because she didn't properly train.
Much like Drake.
Unforced errors.
Unforced error, yeah.
So gotta say, it is kind of impressive that you can make things worse for yourself over the course of a week when the whole starting point was killing a dog. I think that when we last left off with Kristi Noem, she had claimed that liberals were attacking her and doing fake news about her killing her dog, and then claiming that actually the story's way different and you should definitely buy her book to find out what really happened. Obviously, it would have been easy for her to just address the audience directly, but she gotta sell those books. But I guess we're not gonna get the full unedited story because in the wake of all this pesky drama, the book has been edited before release. And it's not just the part about her dog. There are new things coming to light in this book.
Yeah.
So here's a note from her publisher.
At the request of Governor Noem, we are removing a passage regarding Kim Jong-un from her book, No Going Back, upon reprint of the print edition and as soon as technically possible on the audio and ebook editions. Further questions about the passage should be referred to the author. Okay, wait, what? What's this about Kim Jong-un? Well, apparently Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, claims to have met with North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un. A claim that she so far hasn't denied and noticeably avoided giving a direct response to.
Before we get too far away, can we both just bask in the glory of the title of this book and how many times
No going back.
how many times so far she has had to go back?
She has gone back on a lot of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty bizarre watching the clips of her being asked about the supposed meeting with Kim Jong-un because she just says, well, she's going to speak about her meeting with leaders. When it would be really easy to just say, you didn't actually have a meeting with the North Korean dictator if actually that didn't happen.
Seems
you are
like
the
another
governor, like why would the governor of a state like that be visiting not just with world leaders, but with the leader of the most like hermetically sealed country on earth? This is like, if this happened, we wouldn't be hearing about it from this book.
It's in the same way that like she went on Hannity and was like, actually, the dog story is being blown out of proportion. And yes, I did kill my dog, but you're missing important context, and then just failed to give that when it would have been very easy to try to explain directly to the audience. It's that in the same way with the Kim Jong-un stuff, because she's like, well, what did you meet with Kim Jong-un? Well, I'm not going to talk about my meetings with world leaders.
Well, you did.
What?
Though. You talked about it in your book.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Also, I feel
clearly she did not write this book, which is interesting.
Also, I feel like without this specific news cycle, if like a week ago you would ask her, I don't know, an innocuous question about a meeting she had with like the Prime Minister of the UK or something, you'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. Had a meeting, great.
Yeah.
It's like,
Liz,
no, you're specifically.
Liz Truss, me and Liz, BFFs.
We were talking about pork features before you were born.
Yeah. It's a shame what they did to her.
Anyways, at this point, I am willing to believe that an intentionally planted story about Kim Jong-un is being used as a distraction from the dog-killing stuff, because a state governor meeting with a dictator is still somehow less bad than killing your dog.
Yeah. Huh.
But
Yeah,
it's...
so here's some quotes from Noem's appearance on Fox News recently. Host Jesse Waters asked,
I guess you said you met Kim Jong-un. Did you meet him?
I've been to the DMZ. I've been to North Korea. You know, people, I don't talk about my conversations with world leaders.
So you didn't have a conversation with Kim when you were at the DMZ?
I don't have conversations about my conversations with world leaders.
So maybe you did have a conversation with Kim, but you don't want to talk about it.
will not talk about my personal conversations with any world leaders. It just won't, and I'm not going to do it.
So what's insane?
Intentionally obtuse.
Yeah.
It's like,
Change your
well,
backs.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
This is a pretty serious implication here. Well, luckily for everyone, I've had that edited out.
You did talk about
X-ray
it.
down. Western recon.
Yeah, but then
Change your
Well,
backs.
I broke my own rule about not talking about.
You see,
having
this is-
conversations about conversations.
this is actually brilliant because the changes, apparently, according to the publisher, aren't going to happen for the first edition. So you better run out and get that first unedited,
Rare.
too hot for TV book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's insane about this is that it explicitly says in her book that she met with him. But she's claiming that this, and apparently certain parts of the dog story, were actually added later, but that would mean that she approved the book with those additions, or that she didn't read her own book at all, or that she thinks we're all just fucking stupid, because actually, yeah, she had read her book at least once because she recorded the audio narration of it, and even promoted the fact that she recorded the audio for her book. Or maybe that was just AI. Who knows?
She posted a picture of her in the VO booth.
Yeah, but you
with the
know.
caption like, "Here I am recording my book."
All right, did you get it? Let's get the fuck out of here. I got dogs to kill. Get the AI. Get the AI on the
I got a
job.
meeting over at the gravel pit.
I got a lot of dogs to kill. I'm the John Wick of dog killing. Reverse John Wick.
But again, back to that dog, she has continued to dig her hole on that front as well, saying at one point that she would definitely kill Joe Biden's dog if given the chance.